Hello and welcome to another episode of the Science of B2B. I'm Kerry Cunningham. I head up research and thought leadership at Sixth Sense. I'm a former analyst for Serious Decisions and Forrester. And today I want to talk to you about the evolution of eyes. And that may not be something that anybody has ever said to you. It has something to do with B2B. I swear to God, I promise we'll get there. But let's talk about how eyes evolve. And I think you'll understand why I wanted to talk about this pretty quickly. All right, so what you're seeing on the screen over on the left-hand side of the screen is the first stage in how eyes have evolved. Now, eyes, they used to say, were evidence that creatures couldn't have evolved, that they must have been created by an omniscient power because eyes are much too complex to evolve. But today we know that eyes have evolved about 400 separate times in different lineages of different kinds of animals, and they exist today in virtually all of those forms. And so one of the reasons we know that they exist in those forms, or that they evolved in those forms, is that they literally exist today that way. So flatworms are tiny little animals, very, very, very small, and they have these light-sensitive patches. Now that's how most eyes begin. You have a couple of cells that mutate, and suddenly they're sensitive to light. Now that's not a lot of information that they're providing about the world those animals live in, but it's more than they had before. And if you have light-sensitive patches and you're a flatworm, you're probably going to be able to outcompete the flatworms that don't have them. You'll be able to get to resources or maybe avoid some situations because of those light sensitive patches. So very primitive, very first step kinds of ways of developing the ability to see. Now, over time, those incremental changes in how an eye works develop into what we think of as eyes in the modern world. And so it just takes a series of different mutations for different things to happen. And that eye continually, gradually gets better at producing information and delivering information to the animal that is going to help it navigate its world. And so we have hundreds of different kinds of eyes that have developed at different times in different ways in different lines of animals. So it's been happening for eons and eons, and it continues to happen. In B2B, we don't have that kind of patience. And often we don't have that kind of time. But what we really need to be thinking about is, how is this change I make to my go-to-market practice today, how is it going to evolve over time? I'm bringing in intent data today because I want to have a better understanding of which accounts might be in market. Is it going to radically change how I see which accounts are in market? Well, it could pretty substantially change how accounts you see are in market. And just like that flatworm with the light sensitive patches, if your competitors don't have the light sensitive patches, you should be able to outcompete your competitors by getting to a few more deals and not going to a few places where there is no evidence that those accounts are in market. And that's what we're talking about. I see countless conversations on LinkedIn where intent data is where people are bemoaning the fact that intent data has not completely radically changed how they go to market and identify buyers. Well, I would say first, it can, but that's probably not where you start. Probably where you start is, let's get better at spending our time with accounts that are good fit accounts and making sure that we're putting our effort toward those. How do we do that? Well, we look to see which ones are acting like accounts that might be in market. Where are there some signals that there might be in market? Now, are all of those signals great signals? No, absolutely they're not. But can they raise the likelihood that you're going to be spending your time with an account that's in market? They absolutely do, right? And they may do that by 5% or 10%, or it may be 30 or 40 or 50%. But you have to start. You can't just sit in the dark and say, I'm not interested in having light sensitive patches because they're not eyes. They're not microscopes, so I don't want it. That is what I hear on LinkedIn a lot these days, is I don't want the light sensitive patches. I don't want whatever this new technology is because I don't believe that it can completely radically transform our operation. I think you need to think about that a little differently. We'll talk about that again in another episode of the Science of B2B, but that's it for now. Light sensitive patches, everybody. Thanks.